We are going to call to order the City of Sherwood Planning Commission meeting for October 23rd, 2016. We can have roll call.
Chair Simpson?
Here.
Vice Chair Griffin?
Here.
Commissioner Flores?
Here.
Commissioner Walker?
Here.
Commissioner Meyer?
Here.
Commissioner Pearson?
Here.
And Commissioner Reddick is absent.
Thank you very much. We have on the consent agenda this evening 2 items, the September 13th and the September 27th Planning Commission meetings. Has everybody had a chance to read? Is there a motion?
Move we approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do not have our council liaison here at this time. Bob, I look to you for words of wisdom or pass it right over to, I'm going to pass it to Brad for staff announcements then.
So just a couple of announcements, I'll keep it short. The FEMA regulations were passed at the last council meeting by emergency, so those are immediately effective. The sanitary and the stormwater master plans were also approved at the last council meeting, and those are not adopted by emergency, so they're still in their appeal period. And then I provided to those of you that expressed interest or didn't express anything at all to me, I provided you with a printout of the 2017 housing forecast presented by the Home Builders Association that's going to be on November 4th at the Oregon Convention Center. It's a breakfast and it's a presentation by the Home Builders Association about what they forecast that Metro's housing needs are going to be for the upcoming year. It's a fairly educational presentation and a good breakfast, and the city will pay for you guys to go if you want to go. I just need to know relatively quickly, hopefully by tomorrow night, if you can. You can just email me, and then I'll make sure to get you on the document. And right now, the only person that has expressed interest in going, or saying that he's going to go, is Commissioner Reddick. Commissioner Pearson said it's too early.
In the morning.
That'll be announcements?
That concludes my announcements, unless you have questions.
I do not. So for those in the audience this evening, Brad will probably be making the staff report, and so if you had a hard time hearing him during his staff announcements, we've moved chairs up to the front here, so if you want to move up, now's an opportunity so that you have a better chance of hearing what's going to be said. All right, community comments. Community comments are limited to those items not already on the agenda. Does anybody wish to speak on community comments this evening? All right. We are moving forward to new business, and I have a script to read. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on PA 15-06 Class Property Plan Amendment and Zone Change. The purpose of this hearing is to provide the public with an opportunity to testify and provide information to the Planning Commission concerning the PA 15-06 Class Property Plan Amendment and Zone Change. The Commission will conduct tonight's hearing in the following order. Staff will present the staff report, followed by questions, if any, by the Planning Commission. We will then open the hearing for public testimony, and each person's time will be limited as follows. The applicant will have 30 minutes split between presentation and rebuttal. Persons in favor of the application will have 4 minutes. Persons opposed to the application will have 4 minutes. There'll be rebuttal from the applicant in the remainder of their 30 minutes. We will then close the public hearing. Final comments by staff, then questions of staff, if any, by the commission, following discussion and deliberation by the commission. If you wish to speak, please fill out one of the blue testimony forms and submit it to the recording secretary. The Planning Commission chair will recognize people who wish to speak, and any questions should be addressed through the chair. Okay. The microphone that's usually on that table is not there, so I'm going to recraft words that say the microphone is situated on the camera, so if you can speak up and project, that would be great. State your name and address for the record as it is being recorded. The Planning Commission's role in the hearing this evening is to make a recommendation to the city council, and they are the final hearing authority on this. And as this is a legislative land use decision, the ex parte contact bias and conflict of interest is not pertinent. The attorney nodded in agreement, so I must have done well. So at this time, we'll call for the planning department to present the staff reports.
Just a couple more logistics. If anybody didn't hear me, the bathrooms are out the door to your right, and then to the left. And we'll be keeping time on our phones tonight. The reason we're not in City Hall is because we had a water issue over the weekend, and the room in that area is not operable. So we're here today. If you have troubles hearing us or want something repeated, you know, I think we're fairly flexible up here, and we can repeat it for you if you have questions. Thank you, Commissioners. So tonight we'll be discussing PA 1506, which is a rezone comprehensive plan amendment for the Foz property.
Do we all need to turn around to see your presentation?
Yes, you will need to turn around to see this, but I will project, and you won't see what I'm doing behind your back. Okay. This is a proposal by the applicant to rezone approximately 2.66 acres of a 5.86 acre site from general commercial to medium density residential high. The medium density residential high, as you know, allows for a variety of housing types, but densities range from 5.5 to 11 dwelling units per acre. This is the subject property just on the map. Here it is in an aerial. Here it is on the zoning map, so you can see the adjacent zones on the properties. This property is zoned general commercial, as are the two flanking properties. There's also low-density residential property located to the north of this, and low-density residential planned unit development. So this property is developed as low-density residential, but it has planned unit development, so they might have had reduced setbacks or increased height or something to afford them that planned unit development. Across Highway 99 then, you have some medium density residential low and some medium density residential high. All of the yellow directly across from there is zoned medium density residential high. And as you already know, the majority of that is already developed for single family housing. Here's the aerial, and here's the 2.66 acres approximately. It's not georeferenced to anything on the earth, but this is the 2.66 acres that they're proposing to rezone. As you can see, Southwest Swanstrom comes in from the west, and then their only other means of access are through a future extension of the Cedar Brook Way from the east or from the highway at Highway 99W. So in order to get a rezone to the city comprehensive plan amendment, it's a legislative process which requires a hearing before the City Planning Commission and the City Council. Catch up here. There are 5 required findings. So the demonstrated need for the proposed use and zoning. The proposed amendment is timely. Other medium density residential high zone properties are unavailable or unsuitable for immediate development. Does not significantly affect the functional classification of a local county, regional, or state transportation facility. And it has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, the transportation system plan, and policies and metro and state standards. So, the Planning Commission must find that there is a demonstrated need for medium density residential high development in light of the city's economic health, current market demand, availability, and location of other residential land in the area. As is discussed in the staff report, data from the housing needs analysis that was completed as part of the Sherwood West preliminary concept plan and the applicant's narrative demonstrate that there are currently 96 acres of buildable residential land within the city. 21 of those acres are zoned medium density residential high. There are an additional 79 buildable acres of residentially zoned land outside the city limits within the Brooklyn concept plan area. It is within the urban growth boundary, but has not been yet annexed into the city. 11 of those acres, of those 79 acres, approximately 11, because there's a couple split zones, so I wasn't positive of the area, but I know that it's about 3 acres on the piece that I knew was split. So approximately 11 acres is zoned medium density residential high. Based on the housing needs analysis and what we know for our 20-year land supply, there simply is not a lot of available land in the city zone for medium density residential high development. Even if you include Brookman and assume that the property was being constructed at the high end of the density range, so at the 11 dwelling units per acre, there is a deficit over the next 20-year planning horizon of about 10 to 11 acres of medium density residential high. The next finding requires that the proposal be timely. There is an immediate need for land, or residential land within the city, and the market demand is high. The properties within this corridor have, for the most part, remained underdeveloped for a long time. There is indication that properties within the area will begin developing as land supply continues to dwindle. Some of you may or may not know that the Elks property has gone up on the market, so they will be looking to sell and develop that property. You all know about the 65 units that are being developed over off of Meineke. There is a high demand here. As fast as these guys get these houses built in Sherwood, people are buying them. There's not a lot of vacant or available properties in the city of Sherwood. Commercial activity is limited to a few properties, and there are utility services available to the property, and with development there will be added opportunities for future development within this corridor. Other MDRA zone properties are unavailable or unsuitable for immediate development. At the end of my presentation, I'll show you the zoning map that illustrates the location of those MDRA zone properties. There's a demonstrated lack of land zoned medium density residential high to meet our projected need. And there doesn't appear to be a lot of other MDRA zone land available and on the market. Those that are available or are vacant or underdeveloped are in challenging areas. And those within the Brookman area, we don't know when that's going to happen because of the 3 failed annexation attempts. I will note that there is a current application, basically the same 100 acres that was considered last year, that's incomplete. They're still working on getting the application complete. It will have to be considered by the council. There's I'm going to push this because I can't remember the House bill. There's a House bill that was passed by the legislature last year that takes annexation out of the hands of the voters and puts it entirely within the council's realm. My, caution or concern to you is that there are a lot of people that may not want to see that land come in, that may not want to see that growth, but 3 times the council has found a reason to put it on the ballot before the public. There's no reason in my mind to suggest that they wouldn't be able to find that land should come into the city. So it cannot affect the functional classification of a local, county, regional, or state transportation facility. So this is a transportation planning rule. And basically, with a rezone of that 2.66 acres, they have a traffic report within the application that says that it will generate approximately, if that was developed out commercially at the highest and best use versus residentially, they would be generating approximately 2,546 more average daily trips with a commercial use than they would with a residential use. And finally, as demonstrated in the staff report, the amendments are not inconsistent with any of our goals and policies and comprehensive plan, the TSP, and Metro and state policies. We got a comment and we're required to demonstrate that the request is consistent with Goal 9, which is the economic development provision of the statewide planning goals. And basically it says that you can't take commercial land out of commercial land if you have a deficit over your projected need. So in 2007, the city put together an economic development strategy that evaluated the amount of vacant land. That is Exhibit D, I think, is the table that demonstrates the land that is commercially available. Since 2007, some of the Langer property off the Langer Farm Parkway has developed out commercially. So that, and because of that planned development, there's an additional 21 acres in there that could develop out commercially. So that land has been added to our available commercial land inventory. So the proposal does not reduce the amount of commercial available properties below the need identified in the 2007 economic development strategy. The development strategy demonstrated a need for 93 acres over the next 20-year planning horizon from 2006 to 2007. 2007 is when it was passed, 2006 is when it was created. And with the Langer property, including the Langer property, all our retail commercial, office commercial, and general commercial, we have approximately 165.24 acres. So we do have a surplus of projected land, or land over the projected need. With that, based on the staff analysis, the applicant has provided adequate information in our minds to make findings in support of the proposed amendment. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval of the proposed comprehensive plan and zoning amendment to the City Council as proposed. I'll open it up to questions, but I also wanted to demonstrate to you that these bright yellow, hopefully this is showing up. There we go. These bright yellow properties are the properties that are zoned medium density residential high. So here's the high school, right? Looks like the high school. Yes. Here's the church, so that's already developed. There's some property adjacent to the church that could be available. Over here you have the high, or a school. A lot of the land that's already zoned, this is not buildable because it's in resource areas. This is arguably not buildable because that's in the resource area right at the intersection of Oregon Street and Murdoch here. And then over here you have this land is currently being developed out. This zone map, as you know, earlier this year, this has already been rezoned to medium density residential low. So there's not a lot of medium density residential high land that is available. Here's some by the Catholic Church that is available, but it's likely to be developed. It could be developed. They talked to us about social housing, like housing that they would like to put as part of their ministries, but they haven't proposed anything. You know, we have to initially assume that's going to be public institutional type uses, but very well could lead to some MDRH zoning. And again, I would just close with saying that the MDRH zoning does allow for a variety of housing types. It allows for single-family homes on lots. As you all know, 5,000 square feet, I believe, is the minimum lot size for a single-family home in the city. And in the MDRH zone, you might be down to 4,000 there, correct? So in the MDRH zone, it allows for single-family detached on a 5,000 square foot lot, single-family attached row homes or townhomes on a 4,000 square foot lot, duplexes on an 8,000 square feet, which basically means that you're having 4,000 square feet per unit, or multifamily requires 3,200 square feet for every unit after your first two. So let's say you had a 10,000 square foot lot, the first two are allowed on there, and then you would have to have another 3,200 square feet for every additional lot out there, or a unit out there, so you get 5. Yeah, do you have any questions on that?
Anybody have any questions of staff before we go for the applicants?
I think the applicant has a presentation as well. If you have a few minutes to set up, that would be great.
Okay, I didn't have any blue cards, so I didn't know who was coming up to present.
Charged it, so hopefully.
Yes.
Might as well just sell all of us.
There you go. Anybody else?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Oh, sorry.
We're just setting up our.
Oh, okay, sorry.
John, speak up a little louder.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Nathan Claus, and I am presenting on behalf of Robert James and Susan Claus tonight. Tonight I'm making a presentation about the rezone. So our agenda, we're going to talk about our response to the staff report, a brief discussion of some of the history of the property, an overview of where we view the projects going, some discussion about the neighborhood meeting, following that, discussion on Cedar Brook Way, and then additional development plans for us, and then finally, our final thoughts on the whole issue. So, our response to the staff report is we agree with almost across the board, but as we'll discuss later on, we are pursuing this zone change because of the Cedar Brook Way, which I'll explain later in the presentation. So some of the history of the project, or of the property, it's been a prime property in Sherwood for as long as I can remember. I've lived there my whole life, and it's always been a hub of activity. And so some of the uses, which the staff report mentions, that includes there's been a restaurant, a book depository, residential office, publishing center, a whole multitude. So, you know, it's very important because the properties have a long, productive life that we want to make clear. And so, when we're talking about the draft lot plan that we're looking at, is 23 lots. This is what we're our draft plan for what we're looking at doing. But like I said, this is the draft, so this is kind of what we're working off. And I know there's a question and answer period, so if you've got questions on specifics, I'd be more than happy to answer it during then. So overview of the project. We are looking to develop the property, but the proposed Cedar Brook Way is negatively impacting the property. Now, the property is self-sufficient in its current state. Utilities are within the property and everything's running fine. We have the two deeded egresses and egresses on the 99W with the property. So we do not need Cedar Brook Way to develop the property. However, since Cedar Brook Way has been mandated by the city, you know, the city must pay compensation for the road if and when it decides it must be installed. But at this time, Cedar Brook Way hasn't been planned. It's on the transportation plan, and so because of that, it's kind of split the property in two. And so, because we're wanting to essentially, you know, develop the property, we're coming up with this solution with the expectation that there's going to be further discussions about Cedar Brook Way further down the road. Now, as you know, we're required to have a neighborhood meeting for all development. And so our first neighborhood meeting was positive. We had 4 people who showed up. All of them basically said that they were in favor of having residential development instead of commercial there. They said it's a lot nicer having a house back up instead of like a office complex or something. And then, as you know, we had a little mix-up with the application to begin with, so we had to do a second meeting. So I followed up with those individuals who had the first meeting, and with the individuals I was able to talk to, it was all positive, and they seemed on board with it. So there's that. And so talking about Cedar Brook Way, like I've alluded to before, the reason for the zoning change is because of this collector. We want to be clear that the road provides no benefit to us as the property holders, and in fact it harms the value of the property. But we just want to make it clear that this is a takings, and so we are trying to work within that taking situation. And one thing to keep in mind for you council members, or planning commission members, is that this development is going to lay the groundwork for the Cedar Brook Way along there. And so it's kind of important because it's going to, I don't know if setting off a chain reaction is the right word, but it's going to kind of start to lay the groundwork. You know, as Brad talked to, the Elks are looking at developing too, and Cedar Brook Way is going through them, so it's kind of one of those things to start getting it in motion. And so some other important development plans for the property is, as you saw in the aerial before, we have a warehouse in the back of the property. We're planning to move that to the front. Our understanding is that's just a simple building permit process. So we plan to do that. The current house in the back is going to be updated. We retain our deeded highway ingresses and egresses. And the process, assuming that everything goes through, in the next 6 to 9 months, we'll be beginning the development of that subdivision. And then, as discussed in the staff report, the electronic outdoor advertising sign will remain, and it's not part of this application whatsoever. So we just want to make that clear that it's not on the table. So our final comments, there's 5 properties along the highway that are directly impacted by Cedar Brook Way, and we feel and know that it's been a political decision to go through with it. And so, for 15 years now, this road has just been kind of there on the transportation plan, and there's been no headway with it. It just kind of keeps falling back. And so, we're looking for some resolution to this process. And so, there's some problems that we feel is that the city designated Cedar Brook Way, but doesn't have the money to pay for it, and they ultimately decide it's not needed. And that presents a big problem for, if the city decides they don't need this road, then we wouldn't have wanted to go through the zone change anyway. And so, in the meantime, until the city makes an ultimate decision on that, it remains the elephant in the room. And so, with that, that's the end of my presentation. So, thank you very much.
Get turned back. All right. Anybody have any questions of the applicant? I think you did a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you. I went and talked to one of my professors today, and they're like, the blue and black always makes people seem like you know what you're doing, so.
I'll keep that in mind.
So just go back and.
Yeah, I think we'll just see if anybody, I haven't received any other blue cards, so
I
let's.
have one.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Do you like me to disconnect the computer then?
Yeah,
Or? Okay.
Okay.
you can bring it back over here.
Oh, yeah. All right. Kevin, Fink?
Chair Simpson,
Yes, wait.
they have 23 minutes and 41 seconds left.
All right. So the blue card I have is an opponent. Do we have, before I call for opponents, do we have any person in favor of the application that was to testify this evening? Then I have opponent Kevin Fink. Come on up and,
Come on down.
or down, yeah.
Come on down.
Come on down.
Am I
And then
allowed to
we just
present
have-
electronic documents, like a PDF?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can I present a PDF?
Yes.
Brad, we need the
There's-
Yes.
You can
You wanted to put it in your
No, it's okay.
And then the testimony time is 4 minutes.
Just 3 documents.
Okay. You give me a virus.
Hope that's an isolated computer, Brad.
So the presentation time is 4 minutes. Are you,
Yeah,
as soon
no,
as once you get set up, I just wanted you to be aware, so.
I'm just, that will be mine.
So
Which one would you like to?
go ahead and get set up.
I know it's kind of not like professional here, but,
I'll switch.
so, the map. So,
And then if you could start with your name and address for the recorded record.
my name is Kevin Fink, and my address is 22118 Southwest Gale Place. And we're in the second cul-de-sac up. So actually, it's not on this map. So right there, we're right there. That's where our cul-de-sac is. And what I'm presenting is the yellow highlighted areas is where, if you go all the way down to 99W there, you see the buildings. Those buildings were originally supposed to be single-family buildings, and they're not. They were never sold, so they are rented, and there's a lot of renters in those houses. Those are all full renters. And so the cars are filling all these yellow marking streets up, all the way down the street, all the way up our street. And when that turnaround was not finished, they actually went up further. So this highlighted area was packed with cars, but it's actually gotten a little bit better since they put in these streets, this new subdivision where it says Gary. Yeah, I don't know why it says that, but in that area, there's new houses that are being built right now, and those streets are now filling up with all these renters that are in all those buildings. And so the reason why I'm opposing this is because I like to see them submitting for not as high possible density as what they're requesting, because you can put the same type buildings right there. And if you put the same type buildings right there, then our neighborhood, which is a really nice neighborhood, is going to just turn into that. And the second document I have there is that PDF. PDF, there you go. This went to every person in every one of our cul-de-sacs. It's basically telling us that we're not going to pick up our garbage if there's cars parked in our cul-de-sac. And cars are parking in our cul-de-sac that are not even people living in our cul-de-sac. And so it's really irritating to come home and not have your garbage picked up because there's too many cars all over the place. And so that's why I'm really strongly opposing this. And that I don't mind if they want to put houses there, single family dwellings, but please do not allow what has happened in the other section happen again to our neighborhood. We really appreciate it. And one other thing to point out is up Swanstrom. Can you put that map back up? Up on Swanstrom, if you go up Swanstrom, that there is parking allowed. It's Hanley. If you go up and down Hanley, and there's a parking only allowed on one side. So on the right side, when you're going up to my left here, there's no parking allowed. There's no parking signs. But when you come down and around and go up Swanstrom's, which is going to connect to this new area, there's parking allowed on both sides. And a fire engine can barely make it through there. And I'm a little concerned if cars are parked up and down the street on both sides that, imagine you guys living up there. How would you like it if you have a house and then all of a sudden apartments come in and now there's no parking on the street. You can't park in your cul-de-sac when it's garbage day. And you're just wondering what if there was a fire and a fire engine needs to fly up that street? They're not going to be able to. So I just want to say that's why I'm opposing this. I don't mind that if you want to build something there, but I would like you to see that if your intent was only to do single family, then that's what you would have applied for, but you didn't. You're applying for this high densities you pack in there, and that's what I'm worried about. So that's all I have.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, and give Brad a chance to. We're all watching you. Yeah, certainly have to watch it.
Kevin, how do you spell your last name?
F-I-N-C-K.
more minutes for rebuttal.
That was pretty good. Staff, are you going to respond at all to,
We will after.
oh, okay, because I think is it Fink? Okay, so the zoning is not the highest zoning. It won't be the same as that zoning that's over there at the condominiums that have turned into apartments that are still condominiums. This density isn't anything like that.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So I happened to grab my code book and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but this is medium density high, which does 5.5 to 11 units per acre. And the highest density within the city of Sherwood is high density residential, which is 16.8 to 24 units per acre. So this is not the highest density allowed in the city, so.
Yeah, and it won't be anything like that. The condominiums, they're the highest in that zoning. The parking problems they have over there, they've actually changed the rules now, so you have to have more parking when you have a profile like that. So that's an anomaly that we have in the town that we're all dealing with. As far as that, and then I noticed also that letter is a 5-year-old letter from Pride, and it is the same problem. If you do have zoning, or if you have a car that's in your area that you don't know who it belongs to, you can call the police department, and they put a tag on it, and it gets removed. So I don't know if the neighbors know that, but they do have some control that way. But basically, we're just trying to respond to restrictions that have been put on us. I mean, ultimately, it would be better if that could be all commercial, but when you split a property in two and you take away the highway zoning, the highway view of it, and you throw a road in the middle of it, you dead zone the back part of the property. And so we're trying to make the best of a bad situation. And part of the problem is that they're really, and it's the same problem that is with the Doyles and the Shannons and the Broncos and the Elks, but in particularly between Doyle's and our property, there's a ravine that in order to jump that ravine, it's super expensive. The city has to pay for it. The city doesn't want to spend their precious dollars. We can't. The road doesn't do anything for us. And so it's one of those kind of odd situations where, because of the expense, it's going to be an unusual situation, I think, if the city ever builds it. So in the meantime, here's kind of where we are. The Doyles, the city said, hey, it's only a partial, so, you know, it's only a partial development. So there was no requirement there because, again, if they would have put that little link from Cedarbrook Way, and you can't really see it from the map there because the bubble is right, you can see the end of Cedarbrook Way right there. That's at Nathan's property. And then to get to the rest of that little corner and then to jump over to us is where that ravine is. And it's not doable. So this is the first step, and we're talking about 23 lots plus or minus in there. If anybody has any questions, it's a pretty simple thing. Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody have any questions of the applicant? No, I think you guys did a great job.
All right, thanks.
All right, so I have no other blue testimony cards for anybody wishing to speak on this matter this evening. So we are going to close the public hearing and have any final comments by staff.
So just a couple of thoughts. You understand the plan that they showed was a draft lot plan. Whatever zoning you apply here is they can develop under that zoning. Whether you choose to approve this or deny it, it does not approve their plan. So if it's rezoned, they're going to have to come in for subdivision approval, and it could be whatever it needs to be to meet the minimum densities. They would have to meet minimum densities, don't necessarily have to achieve maximum density, sure. Cedar Brook Way, that alignment will be set by the development. It is a collector, so it is reimbursable, SDC reimbursable. So whoever starts Cedar Brook Way, whether it's the Elks or it comes from this way, or the city initiates it, development that will initially pay for it will be reimbursed for that. And then I think just to respond to Mr. Fink's comments, parking is controlled by the police department. We have had parking issues out in that area. They are public streets. You're allowed to park on a public street. It is unfortunate that, you know, in cases like the Cedar Brook Creekview condominiums, that people have abused that and parked all over the place. But, you know, it's been my experience in the suburbs that if you have a 3-bedroom apartment, you're going to have 3 cars. But unfortunately, Metro doesn't allow us to do that.
So just, there's no minimum density requirement. As long as they're within the 5.5 to 11, they can.
That is the minimum. 5.5 is the minimum.
5.5 to 11, so
Yeah.
they can do as few as
11
5.
So you have to consider that they're going to have to take land out for roads, they're going to have to take land out for stormwater quality facilities. In a subdivision, we require a minimum of 5% open space. So, you know, if you're looking at anywhere from 11 to at the max 23 units.
Okay. And this process doesn't dictate, just for clarification for people, for Mr. Fink, it doesn't dictate what the buildings are going to be like when they're there. It just designates whether it's not going to be commercial, it's going to be residential. Because the other option they have is to build a commercial development there.
It's important to note that in our commercial zone, you can build multifamily too. So you can build multifamily provided it's above or behind and clearly secondary and incidental to the commercial use.
So as the commercial use being the frontage on 99, they could have put apartments on the backside. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions of staff?
So those condominiums that are, we have determined that those condominiums with the parking issue are in the higher density, right?
That's high density residential.
Right. And was there some change, I remember when we brought that in, we had some conversations about the parking. Has there been, have we had some changes so that when we go to plan this 11 to 23 units, that the parking restrictions have gotten, are different than they were at that time?
So a couple things. After that development, you were not allowed to count garages in multifamily developments towards your parking requirements. But in a single family development, you
Well,
allow
so
garages.
if it's single family, I don't think it would have any problems in terms of, he's just.
Yeah, if it's
Example,
if
common,
it's
but-
developed multifamily, which this zone would allow for multifamily densities, although keep in mind, I mean, they're limited, it's 2.66 acres. Let's just take off 25%, 2 acres. And then you have, your first 2 units are there, and then you have, I gotta do some math here, but give me a second. They couldn't go above the 23 units, so they would have to get it.
But also restrictions are, for parking are also more stringent than they were before, because you can't count.
I don't believe they are. So our parking requirements are based on the type of unit.
Okay.
So if it's a 1-bedroom unit, it's like 1 space. If it's a 2-bedroom unit, it's 1.50. If it's a 3-bedroom, it's 1.75 spaces. And Metro doesn't allow you to have more than that.
Right.
And then,
There's nothing we can do anything about it.
right.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
It does. You know, what does the public do when, I know we talked about it being a police issue about parking, but you know, there is some special parking up now by Snyder Park. People can't park there unless they have a permit.
Right.
Is that a process that you?
Yeah, so there is now parking like that around the high school and some of the neighborhoods around the high school and up around Snyder Park. And basically, they initiate that with the police department, city council, and then they go through it's a permit parking program, and the council has to adopt it as an area, a specific area, subject to that permit.
Okay, so the first step is with the police department, perhaps help us remove.
I mean, the first step is the police are gonna start monitoring how many complaints they're having to attend to out there. Then they're gonna start fielding complaints. Somebody's gonna go to the council and ask for a parking overlay to be placed
Okay.
there, and then they'll evaluate it.
I feel certain the police would actually come to a neighborhood meeting and talk about any of that kind of stuff, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I'm
sure.
sure they're really wanting to help with that. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I think, all right, so do we have a? Yes, okay.
Do your thing, Russ.
And you ready?
Wait, I'm just ready, and then we can make final comments.
You want me to read that?
Yeah, please.
All right.
Said you're ready.
You ready?
All right. Let's see, I move the Sherwood Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for PA 15-06 clause property plan amendment and zone change. Based on the applicant testimony, public testimony received, and the analysis, findings, and conditions in the staff report.
Back.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'd like to make two comments. One is, I think Nathan did a fabulous job with his presentation, and the other point that he brought up that is pretty valid is that by putting Cedarbrook Way in, it really does divide the property, and by putting medium density high in there, it creates a transition from the residential to what we know is going to be commercial. And so regardless of my second comment, this zone change seems to make sense in that it's going to be a good transition for the neighbors that are already there. Because like you said, if it were in a business office or some other highly active commercial development, that would have a greater impact on the neighbors. My second comment is, this is what, the second or third zone change that we've heard because the comprehensive plan needs to be updated. And I would like to express concern that if we continue to chip away at the comprehensive plan that we fail to have a comprehensive plan. And we are scheduled to update our full comprehensive plan. I'd like to make it known, if the commission agrees, that the council needs to direct us or do whatever it is the council does to put a moratorium on zone changes until we have our comprehensive plan in place. It is imminent. We are going to be doing it within the next year or so, but if in that time there's a bad rush for all these little one-off zone changes, we're going to be creating a piecemeal of, potentially not as well thought out zone changes. So I'm expressing a concern, and I'd like to hear the commission's feedback after we vote on this matter tonight. So that was my take on that. I'm normally against piecemeal zone change, but when they make sense, I'm happy to make the right thing, easy thing, right? All right. Anybody else have any other comments? All right, then we will vote on PA 15-0. There's been a motion to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council on PA 1506 clause property plan amendment and zone change. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much. And then to piggyback that along, is anybody, I would move that the commission, and on a separate matter, express our concern to the council that this is a slippery slope, and that until the comprehensive plan is complete, that we consider not doing these anymore.
Or looking at it in a
Well,
year or
so one of the things that we're gonna do after is we were gonna talk about planning commission goals and things based on the email I sent out to you yesterday. It is important to note while the public is here, that council meeting is tentatively scheduled for November 21st. That's when they would, or 22nd, I'm sorry,
So
is when the council
Well,
is
that-
here.
the council will hear
I thought
this.
planning commission was the 20. Planning commission is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
I think they were moved to the 29th.
Oh, 29th, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yes. So November 29th is when the council will hear this.
Okay, so the council is going to hear this matter on November 29th, and you will have an opportunity at that time to put anything else into evidence or testify again before the council, and they make the final decision on the zone change. 29th?
Yes.
Yeah.
29th. All right. Of November. Oh, that's a weird date. So,
It is, it's the 5th Tuesday, and I forgot they moved it. And you're right, so I don't believe we have anything scheduled for the 8th. Understand? Because it's election night, we're trying to keep that open. But we do have some things on our agenda for the 22nd.
Right.
So. Perfect. Now, to the other matter at hand.
to
with
to my concern on the table from what we're gonna recommend to council, either as an official motion consensus, or if it's part of our appreciation dinner report, however we wanna do it. I would like to see what the council commission thinks about that.
What's the timeline? Is there a specific timeline for reviewing the master plan?
The comprehensive plan.
Governance plan?
So it's probably going to be about a 2 to 3 year long process. We're working on the work program now, and we've been working on it for a couple months now. We'll be presenting that to the council after the election and after the first of the year to get that going. So it's a pretty big undertaking. So our comprehensive plan has not been updated since 1991. At that time, we project with the population that it is today, based on the population that was here then, only about 2% of the people that are in Sherwood today would have participated in that process. So that's all the visioning and objectives for your long-range future. So this is a very direly needed piece of legislation that will ultimately have to be really carefully thought out, hammered out through the communities.
And so for 3 years, you're suggesting that we need these kinds of things?
Well,
It's usually how long they take.
but
Yeah.
3 years before they start it, or 7 years before? You're gonna,
Well,
I'm sorry,
It'll
so
take
no,
2 to 3 years
no,
to
we'll
complete
start
it.
it, we're hoping to start it here this coming next
Okay.
year. And I say 3 years because once you start getting into
Yeah.
the hard discussion about goals, policies, and objectives,
yeah.
those could take months. So,
and I don't know, moratorium's a hard word, but what do we have between lots of little zone changes and nothing, or a comprehensive plan? I don't know. I'm looking at Josh because he's
well,
gonna save me.
I'm not crazy about the idea of putting a moratorium on it. I think we should put ask the council what they think, what they believe. But, like the last 2 changes we made, I think you said it, they were warranted because it made sense in that particular situation. I would hate to force somebody into some kind of a hardship because we just put a moratorium on it.
Right.
And maybe the third one is gonna make sense as well. If we come across one that doesn't, then our vote doesn't have to be yay, you know what I mean?
Then it becomes like
But
Well,
very subjective.
that's why I'm saying let the city council tell us what they think.
right,
I don't-
but when an application comes forth, let me ask the staff: is it not within what your job is to do, is to try and make that application be approved?
Yeah.
I would say,
And so-
once we get an application, we have told the applicant whether or not we think that they will have met the objectives for a rezone or not. In some cases, they don't care, because it ultimately is a decision that the council makes, and they would rather make and appeal their case to council than listen to what staff has to say.
No, but you give them counsel, and you yourself,
Yes,
your job is
absolutely.
to figure out a way to make it work for them.
So as you know, there were 5 criteria that they had to meet, right?
Yeah.
So-
And that 5th one was awful weak. It says
Yeah.
Well,
it wasn't inconsistent. Well, that's
Well,
not
and-
consistent.
that is, this criteria is subjective for a reason. They don't
You
want
know what,
staff
Goal 10?
making
Yeah.
Goal 10,
decisions.
I had to read it like 4 times until I finally went, oh, not inconsistent. Like 4 times I had to read that. So it was a little bit confusing.
That was my own wordsmithing, because again, I, as a staff person, sometimes have difficulty making a recommendation on something that is really a question of the community and not
Right.
staff. From a professional perspective, they've made the case for the zone change, right?
Yeah.
There's a demonstrated need.
Yeah.
We need housing. By them converting it from commercial to housing doesn't detract from our commercial needs over that 20-year projection. Based on a study that was done in 2006 or 2007. Is it timely? That's really a question of the market, right? It's not my, I can say that there's a strong demand for housing, but there's an equally strong demand for people that are looking at and planning to develop commercially. But you can argue one way or another. I've heard that commercially Sherwood is saturated, that we have too much commercial land in Sherwood. But that is again an objective. I mean, that's a function of the market. Other
And a
NDRH
snapshot.
zoned properties, there's not a
Yeah.
lot of other NDRH zoned properties that are available for development. Even though we show the acreage there, they're not all out there on the market, and in a lot of cases, a lot of that land would be taken out for resource protection or something else. Why do we have a school that's zoned NDRH? Hopefully, those are things we're going to be fixing as part of the comprehensive plan.
Right. And we don't know what's going to happen with Brooklyn. We just don't.
We don't know what's gonna happen with Brooklyn.
So if we say a moratorium, could we have something that, like, unless it's really stringent, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise you really have to consider every single one using the same thing that we did today. Right?
Not,
So you're gonna have these piecemeal things happening. I see what she's
Well,
saying.
this is
Not-
the second
not
time they've come
inconsistent.
in, right? The first time this application.
They've never come in.
No,
No, I thought
They
they
pulled it.
They pulled it, but I had a chance to read it, I think.
Yeah, we
Yes.
did.
Right, and I remember thinking then, I didn't think it was a strong application.
Well,
And
they
then
pulled
things changed, and I think maybe that's what we're going to see.
You have
People are going to be a little more,
You definitely had a stronger case in my mind for an NDR zone
Right.
property than NDRL zone property.
Right.
And in fact, as much as you guys may not like it to live in single-family homes, there is more of a need for multifamily housing in Sherwood than there is single-family housing. People don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. And when we get to that point where we're discussing goals and policies related to housing as part of the comprehensive plan amendment, the state will hold us to that requirement to make sure that we have land available for multifamily housing. Doesn't necessarily have to be there, but we have to provide and afford the opportunity for multifamily housing. The community, if it doesn't like multifamily housing because they don't like, per se, the crime or something that brings, they don't build cheap, crappy multifamily housing in Sherwood. It's a very upscale community. It's gonna be really nice, but we can impose higher design guidelines on our multifamily housing. But we have to have time to develop that. The community has to have an opportunity to discuss it. If you think about the multifamily housing what was the last multifamily housing development we had? The Sherwood Plaza. Yeah. So,
Tannery Square Park.
well, the Sherwood Apartments were most recently approved. That's up behind Safari Stand. They are very high quality, they're very nice looking apartments. Developers are gonna, because of the value and cost of land, the amount that they have to spend in developing their land, the upfront cost associated with system development charges, street improvements, purchasing the land and all the development, they have to put as many dwelling units in there as they can to make their return.
but the quality of that product was also driven by the fact that it's in the downtown streetscape, which required them to do some of that landscaping. If it were in a regular neighborhood, the city of Sherwood, we could have had big blank walls up against it for a zone change to high density residential,
Right.
without the residential design standards, could put us in a position where we get apartments, blank walls, right on the face of our community, because that is
I agree.
where a 25-year-old comprehensive plan is, with piecemeal zone changes and no residential design standards. So I just expressed a concern, and I agree, 3-year moratorium, there's gotta be, Josh, something in between a 3 to 5 year moratorium and we go willy-nilly on a, not inconsistent with a 25-year-old plan.
Yeah, I hear your concern. I mean,
You don't have to answer me tonight, you
Brad's
can bring
point,
it
though,
back.
I mean, you're evaluating these on a case-by-case basis, and there is a considerable amount of discretion in this process that you don't have some of the other decisions before you.
So if that same application came before us with the same staff report that was presented by Brad tonight, and as a commission, we said, but we feel it, and I'm not saying for this example, let's just take any example that looks similar, where staff has to make findings that are consistent with what's coming in. As the city attorney and the commission and the council make a decision that say, yeah, but we don't think the timing's right, are you going to be able to defend that through LUBA and all the other places? Because as a community, we're tired of zone changes.
Not on the basis of we're tired of zone changes, but if we can articulate a basis that speaks to the criteria.
Yeah, it's
There-
not
there's a level of
timely
discretion
because,
to the- in
it's,
the
yeah, it's not
criteria.
timely because we've already had so many of them that we are piecemealing our community.
That's not really fair.
But
That's not fair.
timely is so subjective.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
if you look at
what's the
other-
criteria? Is it
Welcome
market
to the
demand?
law.
Is it market demand? Is it, there haven't been enough of these zone changes, so there is a higher demand for the existing land? I
Well,
mean, is that defensible in potential
I
litigation?
I have a problem with imposing a moratorium on somebody who has the right to make these presentations. Because essentially what you're doing is you're changing the law. You're prohibiting them from doing something that they have a legal right to do. Now, I'd also like to point out that we have a case right here where the applicants withdrew their initial submission because I think they saw where things were headed with us. So they modified it on their own to come up with essentially a better plan for the development. And just a brief aside for a second. I don't know if you saw an article in the Oregonian, I think it was 2 weeks ago, in the Homes and Garden section. There was a whole article about the Mandrell Farms that we passed, okay?
Oh, Mango?
Mango Farms that we passed. And they're talking about all these wonderful, great houses, and they're gonna build one-story houses and the kind of houses that I like would like that. But the starting price is gonna be in $500,000 range. Okay, not exactly what I had in mind in terms of starter home, but again, it points out the fact that A, there's a need for houses. Clearly, these developers see that there's a market that'll support that here in Sherwood. Three, I go back to the apartments we just did that accommodated our group collective ideas as to how they should develop it and things they should do and upgrade it. So so far we've got developers who are very accommodating to us
No,
and to the city.
They had to be because within that zone, they had to put in streetscape buffers and additional landscaping.
Right.
Because it was in the town center
Right.
area. If it were outside the town center area, we don't have design criteria that would, there's no requirement, there would be no way. So
Right.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, and we have time before we go to commission, but that was, I just don't feel comfortable that if something came before us, we could say no and then,
Because we really don't want to right now.
because, you're gonna have to defend us in court, and we have to have better direction from council. Maybe that's all we need, is a better direction from council from when they want us to, not any site specific, but what's the general thought for rezoning, how much commercial and or industrial to residential?
Well, again, I agree with you, Gene, because if you remember in previous comments and things like this came up, I said we're going to start chipping away what we got. And again, the problem at that time was we were significantly limited. It didn't look like Sherwood was going to grow because annexation kept getting vetoed. Well, I don't see that as a problem anymore.
No.
But we still need to take care of what we have now. We have to deal with today. Okay, and the world and the situation as it exists today. And I can understand how the clauses and other people were upset when they talked about a road that's been talked about for years and hasn't been done, and it's stifled them, put them in limbo.
That's why this one was timely and
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yes.
But,
So-
and you're right, so everybody gets an opportunity, but without council community direction, it's really hard to keep piecemealing our comprehensive plan, chipping away at it. So even if it's just a council work session to say this is,
That's good.
as a community, where we believe we want to end up.
And I can tell you this, that if you get to a point where you want to deny an application, especially on something subjective to the process, we will work with you to come up with findings. Everything's available. I think there has to be a strong, compelling argument. I would hope that you guys don't feel like you have to rubber stamp everything I bring to you. If it's a recommendation of approval from staff on a subjective item, you could have very well made a case that this isn't timely for some reason or another.
Okay.
But
Or the
you know,
comp plan provisions about livability.
yeah, if the comp plan
Area.
is not really supported because it's out of date or something, we can make those kinds of assertions and findings and then
Yeah.
go to your items.
I don't think we have that problem.
Right.
Is it?
Yeah. Sorry, you missed it. No. Oh, there were fireworks and everything.
No.
Cake, ice cream.
School conferences, I understand.
Uh-oh.
Make it stay.
Penalty of some sort. So,
Don't chase it.
so before we wrap up the meetings, I don't have anything else on my agenda. You wanted us to provide comment about the goals and such.
So we can do that tonight. You can do it via email to me. So what we've done in the past is we did a SWOT analysis and here more recently we did what is it that you've accomplished, what is it that we would like to see changed, and what we would like to see in the future. So you can think about that and send me
Well, I
comments.
think we just got a real hefty notion of what we'd like to see them do in the future, wouldn't we? Get
Well-
moving on the comprehensive plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you know, that's important to note. That was a goal last year. We put it on as a goal last year. And so I think it's very important to just keep drilling that in. I think the
That's our
council.
only goal.
No,
I mean, well, no.
Yeah, right.
Why not it be our own?
Right.
It was like, no,
Right.
that's all of our focus, because obviously whatever, we didn't get to it this year.
You will get a lot out of the comprehensive plan. Out of the comprehensive plan, when we move into the implementation stage, you can get design standards for projects because you set the high bar in your comprehensive plan, goals and policies for multi-project.
It was funny, at last year's dinner, Parks was complaining that their master plan was like 10 or 15 years old. I said, you got your beat. The whole city comprehensive plan is older, and I don't know if that helped, but.
Did they get theirs done?
Yeah, I don't know if they did or not. So as an overachiever, I also mentioned a couple of other things for us to contemplate on the, either a work session or something that the commission may want to figure out what direction is the tannery site. What's the council's vision for the site if the cost benefit analysis is favorable? As we go through the comprehensive plan, is the zoning right on that one? And what is the council vision of what that area would look like as the entrance to our community? And then as part of the, again, part of the comprehensive plan, economic development in the Tonquin employment area. How could, first, as a commission, we have a great way to, we've been facilitators in community involvement with the recreational and medical marijuana, but are there other things that we can do with the Tonquin employment area for economic development? And then are there things in the code language that are the comprehensive plan or and the code language for industrial that we as a commission should be thinking about as we do goal setting? That was my
I have that email.
overachieving.
So I can definitely take a stab at this report and then we can talk about it at the next plan commission meeting. I'll send it out to you guys prior.
That's what the commission's dinner is the next week though, right?
Yes.
Because they usually want our stuff the week before, so they would want our stuff the next morning,
Yes.
or 2 weeks.
Last year they didn't ask for it that way. Remember, we presented it that night. Yeah, we made changes all the way up to that night.
I'm the free-range chicken. I said, you know.
Yeah, you can say what you want to.
At the
you're
dinner.
Representing it, but, you know, as long as we get the fundamentals of what your goals and accomplishments are, I think that's most important. What's also most important is to remember that you guys can email back and forth about these types of issues. If you're gonna email with staff, I probably will just email it back to you you, I won't email it to the other commissioners because that could already constitute a form as well.
So if anybody can shoot from the hip of any other
So far, I have comprehensive plan, tannery salad, comprehensive plan, and a comprehensive plan.
in economic development.
And economic development of the Tonkin employment area. I will say, on the Tonkin employment area, there's an old adage in planning and development anywhere that says, development follows pipe to pavement. The 124th is almost complete. Once that is complete, I suspect one of the two major property owners out there, once one of them goes, you're likely to see just a effect of Tonkin.
And from Patrick Allen's time forward, it's been, we just want to make the right thing the easy thing. So hopefully we've got in place the right easy thing in the top employment area.
And you just went through the uses.
Right, it's certainly helpful to have all those people that helps out.
Yeah, that was major. So, all right.
I have a staff announcement. I mean, not a staff announcement. A commissioner announcement.
No.
Unless
Okay.
somebody else has something.
Nope, we're gonna move to commissioner announcements at home.
Okay, so about a year ago, I was sitting at Clancy's with a couple of friends, and we were talking about the upcoming election. I was listening about the upcoming election, and someone said, "Oh, you should run," and someone else said, "Oh, well, if I did, will you support me?" And I think I said yes. And so this particular person asked me if I would write a recommendation. You fill out the form, you send it in, which I did. It got edited. And and I haven't seen it yet, but what ended up in the voters pamphlet was my name, comma, the Sherwood City Council, apparently. So if anybody reads that, I want to make sure on the record that I had nothing to do with that. It was scratched out, but if you don't scratch it completely out, Washington County will put exactly what is in that box in the voters pamphlet. So I'm not professing to be on the city council. I've never been on the city council. It was some kind of an error, so I had nothing to do with it.
So for the public record, you're not on the council.
For the public record, I'm not on the city council.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know that.
And I know that, right? That's it.
All right. Hearing no other announcements, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, Bert.